8:30, and I'm going to call the meeting of Middleton Common Council for November 15th, 2022 to order. And the first item is the roll call. Lori?
Here. Here.
Here.
Nelson?
Here.
Kuhn?
Here.
Bizarre?
He's here.
Here.
Good job.
Olson? Here. Crow?
Here.
All present?
Okay, thank you, Lori. So the next item is the public comments. It's limited to 3 minutes per speaker. So you come to the podium here, identify yourself and your address, and you have 3 minutes. And Brian will who's going to take care of the time? Okay, Bill will monitor the time. Anyone who may want to speak at this time, this is your chance. Well, anyone who may want to speak at this time. Okay, I'm going to close that part of the meeting. We are going to go to the approval of the consent agenda. It has 6 items. So the Common Council minutes for November 1st, 2022, special Common Council meeting minutes of November 10th, 2022, audit of the bills to be paid as approved by the Finance Committee, review of an application to amend the agent for the alcohol beverage license held by Ultimate Mart LLC, now doing business as Metro Market. Review of an application to amend the agent for the alcohol beverage license held by Quick Trip, doing business as Quick Trip on Century Avenue. And lastly, the application for expanded premises by Class B retailer Capital Brewery 7734 Terrace Avenue. And there's one other item. Thank you, Larry. That's item number 7. This is the task order with Strand Associates for engineering services for well number 4 rehabilitation. Need a motion to approve the consent agenda with these 7 items.
This is Alder Kuhn. I'll make that motion.
Need a second.
This is Wokus, I'll second.
All right. Any questions, concerns, or changes? Okay, all those in favor of the motion to approve the consent agenda say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. We are on to a big thing now. We have the STEM students here from Middleton High School, so I'm going to read the proclamation designating November as a STEM month, first month for the STEM education. So the proclamation celebrating first, this is your organization month, whereas the STEM jobs are projected to grow 8% between 2017 and 2029. And whereas only 20% of the U.S. high school graduates are reported to be prepared for college level coursework in STEM majors, only 20%. Whereas 92% of the boys and 97% of the girls lose interest in STEM if not engaged by the 5th grade. And whereas 60% of the women say they were not encouraged to pursue STEM careers. And whereas African American represented only 3.86% of the graduates that received a degree in engineering. And whereas FIRST program engages young people in STEM projects to help them become more active and engaged in their communities. And whereas Badger Bots is a 501c3 tax-exempt organization, has been inspiring Wisconsin kids with STEM learning experience for over a decade. And whereas Middleton citizens will be more inclined to pursue careers in STEM fields than ever before, now therefore I, Gurdeep Brar, Mayor of the City of Middleton, Wisconsin, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of November as first month so as to coincide with the National STEM Day on November 8th. Furthermore, I recognize the efforts of organization First, Badger Bots, and Team 17235, Mr. Card. Who is Mr. Card? If you want to raise your hand. Oh, all right. There's more than one. Okay. In promoting STEM to the people of Middleton, I encourage Middleton citizens to seek education regarding science, technology, engineering, and mathematics on this day and into the future. This proclamation was adopted at a regular meeting of the Middleton Common Council on 15th day of November 2022. Need a motion to approve.
This is Naira. I'll make that motion.
This is Katie. I'll second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Any of you want to come and say anything? You can come to the podium. Otherwise, I will come here and
We'd love to hear what your team is doing.
all right. The
Do
way to
tell,
go.
Mr. Cod.
And your names, please.
I'm Andrew Middleton, and we are proud, of course, we're a robotics team, and so we're under the organization of First, and so what we do is we compete in competitions and build like advanced robots, and they all compete and they complete several tasks. And if you guys want to talk about what you've been doing this season, we can totally go through that.
And yes,
That'd be
you would
awesome,
want
yes.
to, yes. This is your opportunity.
Yeah, so I work on outreach, so I send emails to places, like I send some of the emails to you guys so we can plan all this and get a proclamation written. And, you wanna take it, Sam?
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Bihal. I'm also a member of Mr. Cod, and so I actually me and Logan together, we're not really super hands-on with the robot. We actually focus more on the game. So like as Andrew was previously mentioning, we create a robot to accomplish a certain task. And so Logan and I are developing a website to really hone in on this ability known as scouting. And so scouting allows us to see what our teammates are capable of doing. And so by like developing a website, we can actually determine things on like how our teammates can perform, where we can succeed with them, and maybe some like minor altercations we have together.
Logan, your name was mentioned. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm Logan Burfield. Just to add on to what Neil was saying, yeah, so we have a couple other people that aren't here today, unfortunately. We're a team of 8, so there's 4 of us here, 4 of us weren't able to make it. But yeah, we also have a group of people devoted to working on software and also working on hardware as well, so building the actual robot. And so yeah, our mission is basically just to promote STEM to more people, get more people interested, and just kind of embrace First policies.
All right. You want to say something, sir?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Caleb Hennigan. I've been more on the outreach team as well, but I've seen more of the robot. And kind of what we're working on is just working through our CAD design of our robot, so that way we can build it easier later on and add on our tool. And then on the software side, we're working on just adding an odometry system, which is just you click a button and then the robot goes there, basically.
What can your robot do?
Currently we don't have our tool attached, so it kind of just drives around. But once we have our tool attached and programmed, it'll be able to drop cones on poles.
Now, you want to say something, sir? You're one of the parents, I suppose?
If you don't mind.
Sure, go ahead.
So I'm Craig Peterman, father to Andrew, who spoke earlier. And so I've been coaching Mr. Cod I've been the assistant coach for about 7 years. I'm actually up here, though, because I recently became the treasurer on the board of directors of Badger Bots. Our facility is across the street from the Fiskers on Discovery Drive. I got on the board because it's really a diamond in the rough, to use a wonderful cliche. There's so much potential with the programs that we offer. This is obviously the high school, or one of the 2 high school teams, but we start STEM programming as early as, I think, 6 years old, through camps, workshops, so on and so forth. We're a nonprofit organization, and this is part of what we do. So anyway, thank you for recognizing the proclamation. And
Let's give these guys a big hand. picture together with all the brilliant minds? You want to come over here?
I'm glad I wore khakis. I should have worn a suit. I know.
Yeah, I actually was trying to start this program a while ago, it's what you guys did, so, yeah.
At least take your hat off.
You can come. No, I got to give it to you. Well, or you can.
There's more desire than, more need than.
Congratulations. You can, it's yours. Boy, this is awesome. I think this is wonderful. Okay, we are on to award of bid, court, and professional services, and item number 1 is award of bid to Boley Tree and Landscape for 2022 street pruning project. Need a motion to approve.
This is Hanira. I'll make that motion.
This is Alder Kuhn. I'll second.
Any questions or comments? We had some discussion early on, and if you want to say anything more, Mark? Okay, all right. Anyone else has any questions or comments? Otherwise, all those in favor of the motion to approve the award of bid to Boley Tree and Landscape for 2022 street pruning project, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion passes. We are on to the miscellaneous, item number 1. Consideration and potential action request from the Airport Commission on purchase of fuel truck to offer 94 UL fuel.
This is Alder Kuhn. I'll make a motion to approve.
So, Larry, how do you want to, in the Finance Committee, they were, how do
Want
you?
to say,
My
As a-
apologies.
yeah,
Alder Haniro, can you
Sure.
do the motion and do it properly?
All right, so no second on that one. I'm, to my colleagues who weren't at finance, I'm going to make 2 motions related to the potential purchase of a fuel truck to offer 94 unleaded fuel. The first one is a motion to rescind the approval in March 2022 of $45,000 from TID 3 and $30,000 from the Airport Enterprise Fund for design, engineering, and construction administration for a fuel farm project.
And this is Alder Kuhn, and I'll second both of those.
Okay. No,
Well, that's just the one for now.
Second it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Just one at a time, so. And, okay, any questions or comments? This is what city, at that time, what we were trying to do was that we're going to actually have a fuel pump there, and we're going to go through the Wisconsin, well, what
Bureau
was
of
that board?
Aeronautics.
Bureau of Aeronautics, and so now we have come up with a new alternative that which is one of the other fuel, UL 94, and that's what we're going to go with for now. So we are sending that motion and coming up with something different very soon. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. All right, let's go to the
Now,
second one.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the use of $30,000 in airport enterprise funds and not to exceed $15,000 in TID 3 funds to purchase a fuel truck to offer 94 UL fuel, subject to, 1, the proper inspection of the vehicle, concluding with a satisfactory inspection report. 2, the inspection cost and ongoing maintenance of the truck to be funded by the Airport Enterprise Fund. And 3, the fixed-based operator establishing criteria to ensure proper usage of the 94 UL fuel.
Okay.
Resale, part of that? And the resale,
Oh, yes, my apologies. And 4, the residual, how did we phrase this? The 4th criterion is that on resale of the used truck, the residual amount would go first to the TID fund, and anything remaining would go to the Airport Enterprise Fund.
Okay, need a second?
This is Alder Kuhn. I'll second that motion.
Okay, let's have a question or comments or discussion now. Yeah, go ahead.
I really am excited to see that the airport is moving forward with a 94 UL. I'm excited that it's a fuel truck, just to get it moving forward. And we talked in finance that they'll be moving on this in the days to come, hopefully if it's still available. It is available, this fuel is available at Sauk Prairie, and they've been using it, and also Wanakee, if I recall correctly. But I do know some pilots that have been using 94 UL, so it is a welcomed additional fuel. So thank you.
And from what we know, 60% of the folks with the airplanes will be using it. Rich, you have some comments or something to say, or?
Yeah, I just wanted to give
Yeah,
Maury
go
an
ahead, Rich.
opportunity.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Richard Morey, airport manager, for those that don't know me. Very excited about this. It is perhaps not the most fiscally responsible thing that we can do, but it is the right thing to do. So there's market for it. We certainly can segregate those aircraft that we cannot use the 94 and make sure only the proper ones get fueled. We'll be doing the fueling as opposed to self-serve, so we'll have more control over it. And this is the right way to do it. It's the quickest way to do it, and we can actually get the product here next month probably. And have it go.
That's excellent. There was one question earlier in the finance committee meeting, that if somebody was to have a wrong fuel and the plane goes down, it's going to be really, really bad for the airport and for Middleton. So you will have a mechanism in place that only the planes which are suitable for UL-94 will use it.
Certainly, you're going to have the. Turn the mic on. I'm sorry?
Can you turn the mic on again?
Oh, didn't know it was on. Okay. Is that better? All right. We already segregate between jet fuel and 100 octane. That's a fairly straightforward proposition, but if you put with aircraft, you have to have a placard next to the fuel not only on the fuel pump, but on the fuel tank. I'm sorry. Can people get? Yeah, this mic's going on. All right. So you have to have placards next to the fuel tank that specifically tell you what octane of fuel you can use. And our line personnel are well-trained and will absolutely do everything we can because, believe me, that's my liability, not the city's liability if I misfuel or my company misfuels an aircraft. So.
You're okay with it, Larry? Mm-hmm. All the elders are okay with that? Okay. Any questions for Rich or anyone else? Any concerns? Okay, all those in favor of the motion with 4 parts made by Elder Hanero, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. On to UL-94. All right. Item number 2. Potential purchase of Strata Apartments at 3001 Parmenter Street by Wisconsin Housing Preservation Corporation, WHPC, and proposed LURA and payment in lieu of taxes agreement. Need a motion to approve. What's
Olson, I'll make the motion. Approve.
Ramsey will second.
Larry, what's LURA? That's
Mayor, may I?
yeah, go ahead.
LURA is a land use restriction agreement. That's the agreement that would restrict certain units for affordable housing for a 30-year period.
Okay.
And I just wanted to note, as was discussed in the Finance Committee, that this is on the agenda for a conceptual approval. If the council is supportive of this in concept, there would be documents drafted that would come back for action at the next meeting.
So Kathy, this is conceptual approval.
Conceptual.
Okay. So, and whoever was, and Elder Ramsey, it's
Yep.
conceptual approval.
Over
Okay.
there.
Any questions or comments? This is a good thing. This is rather than 15 years agreement before it's 30-year agreement. So I think it's a win-win. Yes, Elder.
I just want to make the comment that these type of projects where we get some affordable housing,
in rotation here is so good, especially like we were talking about, you go to apartments and they're paying so much for utilities and stuff. You need to have this kind of option for those people that can't afford to stay in subpar apartments, and this is something that'll really help in the long run, and having it restricted for 30 years is really going to be a good thing for the city. Thank you.
Great job. Yes. Luke.
I had just two questions that came up after I was reading through everything, and I was appreciative of the discussion that happened at finance because it kind of helped me understand. I'm still grasping all the concepts. But I just had a question for Mike, I believe it was, if where would be another unit that's similar to in size and scope?
Well, there's one here in Middleton. That's the Kestrel. So very similar structure, what we refer to as a non-tax credit development, a NOAA, which stands for Naturally Occurring Affordable Housing. So same structure as that, as this project here is what we're proposing.
Okay. Okay, so the Kestrel is a good, okay. Thank you for that. My other question would be if there's anything else here in Middleton. So thank you. And conceptually, I understand it, but I'm still getting my head around it. So I would vote in favor of this motion, but I still need a meeting with staff to understand.
Yeah, it does have need some more understanding. So I can assure you, Bill will be happy to explain. So he knows all of it. Any other questions or comments? Luke, you are happy with it?
Absolutely.
Good, good. Okay, all those in favor of the motion, and this is the conceptual approval. The potential purchase of Strata Apartments at 3001 Parmenter Street by WHPC and proposed LURA and payment in lieu of taxes agreement, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. And Luke, you're okay? I think he's yes.
I am okay.
Yes. All right. I like that. So, okay, so we are on to item number 3. Wow, this is very exciting. November 8th, 2022, election results and update. Lori.
Oh, hello.
Lori Burns.
I'm going to bore you with some numbers first here. So as of November 4th, 2022, we had 15,402 registered voters in the city. So that was at the end of the registration period, the Friday before the election. We mailed out 3,709 ballots that came back. Of that, 282 were not returned. So we had 282 of them we mailed that were not returned. And of that total that we mailed, we had to end up mailing back 183 back to the voters for resolution to fix either a signature or an address on the ballot. I'm not sure exactly how many of those came back. I don't have that figure yet, but most people made those back. Otherwise, they showed up to vote on Election Day. We had 2,432 people vote early in the clerk's office from November 22nd to October 22nd to November 4th, which was significantly lower, I feel like, than other years. We usually had a line for early voting, and we didn't really have long lines here for early voting, and I actually had to send a few workers home each day because we had too much staff scheduled. So, I mean, it was nice for the people that came in, but it made a difference on Election Day because they all then showed up on Election Day. We had 6,035 people vote in person on Election Day between the 4 polling locations. It was a pretty equal amount between each location. About the highest was 1,598 over at Courthouse, and the lowest was here at City Hall, 1,344 in person. Of those 6,908 were Election Day registrations. Wow. So quite a few registrations. happened that day. We had a 79% overall turnout citywide, which is pretty good for November race. And usually in November, we do have a pretty high turnout. At each polling place, we had 3 electronic poll books checking in voters, and we designated 2 additional, so 5 total at each polling place, but we designated the 2 additional to process absentees at the beginning of the day. Otherwise, we would have been there. Michelle and I were already here till midnight. We would have been here way longer if we hadn't done that. That's a pretty, detailed process for processing absentees. But once we got the bulk of the absentees processed, we then took those machines and used them as additional check-in stations because there were long lines, as you all have seen, or if you were out there voting. Some of them outside, so thankfully it was nice out. And I think that was just mainly due to all the less people that came in to vote early and most of the people showing up at the polls. Despite the long wait lines, we had no real major issues. A mouse maybe stopped working or a keyboard here or there. The machines would sometimes freeze up. It just happened a couple times. We had to reboot the whole system to get things running again, but it was probably just how quick everybody was working, trying to get the lines going. But after that, everything ran pretty normal. No major instances. As with each election, we learn things and we try to make improvements for the upcoming years. By 2024, it would be helpful if the city would support purchasing 2 more Badger books for each polling place. Then we could have a little more for voter day registrations. That kind of slows down the line a lot. And when we only had 3 of them, we didn't specifically designate a couple for just voter registrations, especially with all the building going on in the city and all the apartments. There's a lot of people moving in and out on a constant basis. We plan to schedule shorter work shifts for the workers. Right now we do 2 shifts, a morning and an afternoon, and it does get kind of long for the workers. And we were really busy. A lot of them didn't get to eat. We offered breaks, but they just didn't want to stop. So we're thinking maybe split it into 3 different shifts throughout the day and then offer some more hands-on training with those Badger books. We can set up demos here in the office. With COVID, we kind of got away with that, not offering that, but I feel like they need a little more hands-on training because I did offer people to come in and only 2 took it up. So I think I'll just make them all come in and do it. So then hopefully they get a little quicker. And the last item would be to look for a replacement polling location for Lakeview Park. That area is pretty small and there really is nowhere to form a line. St. Luke's, I think they could have formed more of a line in the lobby, but they just went outside. Courthouse, they didn't extend outside, and they had the biggest in-person turnout, so they made their way through the police department lobby somehow, and they all squished in there, but Lakeview Park, there's really nowhere to snake around inside that building, so we might need to look at a different solution for that, but I think next year we'll be fine because the smaller elections, we should be fine, but for sure for 2024. And I feel bad for those people because they've moved around a lot with losing the district service center and then, so I'm asking for options and I have a couple ideas that I'm gonna run down by the city administrator. So hopefully we'll find something.
So I just want to say that Lori and her staff and all the election workers did a phenomenal job. Yeah. And I would only say thank you, thank you, thank you. I was in a line, and but everybody was working very hard. So I think it's good. There were a lot of people who wanted to vote, and on behalf of everyone, I would say thank you. Great job. Let's give her a big hand. And I'm sure that whatever you need in terms of more computers, or it will be, I'm sure the city council will be happy to fund it. And
Yeah,
Katie?
I totally agree. Lori, you did an amazing job. Can you explain what the Badger books are? Does that just confirm addresses? Is that what?
Yep, it replaces the old paper poll books, so they're the poll books.
Got it.
So instead of having the paper, 2 copies with 2 workers,
Yeah.
it's just the electronic.
Great. Okay, thanks.
Any,
I got a question, and I've always wondered about this, is when you vote early, you can't count those anyway. Are they treated just like absentee ballots
Yep.
then? So they are, so when you say 2,000, you had to run through, and that was part of this that you collected here.
Yep.
And you don't have to take those by to the location, like if I'm in District 1, you don't have to take that to St. Luke's?
Yep,
Oh.
yep,
Oh,
we
you
do.
do, you have to
Yep.
separate them all out?
Yep, each
And then
polling place has
Has
to.
to count their own?
Yep.
That's another step.
Yeah, a lot of reconciling we do.
So each polling place would need 2 books to read?
Yeah, yeah, that would be very helpful, yep.
Can I ask a follow-up about that?
Yeah.
So at the different polling places, are the absentee ballots processed all together? Or I was working in Madison at UW on election day, and we had to take 3 at a time, get in line just like a voter would, and read the names and addresses.
Yep, they have the paper poll books in Madison, right?
Yep.
Yep. So we designated 2 just machines, the Badger Book machines, to process absentees. So we kind of split them A through L and M through Z with 2 sets of workers working on them. And we don't need to get in line for that. We can just process them in our one little area. And then council had allowed purchase of a second tabulating machine. So we don't even have to get in line now for those big elections and feed the ballots in. We have our own designated machine to feed those absentee ballots in, which is nice because as long as nobody sneaks a ballot in there, we know what number we should get to, and that's what should be on that machine, so it makes reconciling a lot easier, but sometimes they sneak a ballot in there. And then we're brainstorming at the end of the night till we figure it out, so.
so we are way ahead of Madison, right?
Huh?
I was
Well,
just-
they have way more polling places, so 80
But
something,
still
I think.
paper, they're still dealing with paper, so you.
Yeah, their poll books are pretty small, though, I think.
Any more questions for Laurie? Well, again, great job. Really want to say thank you, and thank you
Yep.
for the update. And let us know whatever you need so that we can help you for the next election, so. Okay, we are on to the resolutions. Resolution 2022-61, approving a public sanitary sewer easement encroachment agreement at 8410 Murphy Drive.
Ramsey will move approval.
Give me a second.
This is Kendra. This is Wilkus. I'll second.
Sean, do you want to say anything about this?
If there are questions.
Any questions there? So how come they were building, there's a retaining wall there? I mean, why and how it fell through the cracks? So what happened?
Sure. There's a really steep earth slope just west of a parking lot on this site. And so some of that soil just kept migrating down the hill or sloughing and encumbering their parking lot. So they were having difficulty parking cars. They'd sometimes have to clear mud off their parking lot. So they put a retaining wall in to try to hold that slope off of their parking.
Okay, so there was a reason for it. Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, favor of the resolution 2022-61, approving a public sanitary sewer easement encroachment agreement at 8410 Murphy Drive, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. We are on to item number 2, resolution 2022-62, approving the 2023 City of Middleton budget for all funds. This is big.
This is Hanairo, and I will
All
move
right.
approval.
This is Alder Kuhn, I'll second it.
Okay, any questions or comments?
Yeah, I'll make a comment. I'm going to be voting against this because I still have a real problem when we have buildings that need maintenance, like the doors at the mock or the bathrooms at the library, and we're allocating such a large percentage of the ARPA funds for NOAA to enrich a few landlords, and there's no income restrictions on the tenants. I just think that it's a poor use of the funds. I think it's irresponsible. And if the program was more defined or tested, but to do it as a, let's see how this works out, I think that's way too much money just to try something. I think we have real needs that aren't going to be met because of this. And taking the money away from the stormwater, I don't think was a good move either. So, thank you.
So, Elder Olson, but those guidelines will be developed, and.
I'm saying
Okay.
we have needs of our own buildings, and it's so important to me that our buildings are maintained also before we look outside. So, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay. This is Resolution 2022-62, approving the 2023 City of Middleton budgets for all funds. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Anyone?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-1. Item number 3, Resolution 2022-63, approving the levying of property taxes for the 2022 tax year, which is the 2023 budget year. Need a motion to approve.
This is Hanira. I'll move approval.
Need a second.
Ramsey, a second.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Okay. All those in favor of the resolution 2022-63, approving the levying of property taxes for the 2022 tax year, which will be 2023 budget year, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We are on to item number 4, resolution 2022-65, resolution declaring the end of public emergency related to COVID-19. Need a motion to approve. Yeah, go ahead.
Mayor, I just have a comment. Wanted to let you know that after the agenda came out with this item included, both City Administrator Brian Gadow and I received comments from a couple of departments that staff multiple committees with some questions and comments. Those questions included when this would be effective, if this were to be approved, what impact that would have on meetings that have already been scheduled and noticed to be meeting virtually. Comments including items such as some committees that have had challenges getting a quorum as is, and the timing around the holidays, that perhaps that may not be the best time to implement that. And then a question about whether or not there would be consideration or council interest in revisiting the topic of a charter ordinance to allow for virtual meetings in special circumstances. One that I can think of as an example is our TID Joint Review Board meeting met virtually at the request of Dane County and Madison College, which has many of these that they are trying to do and wish to do those virtually. So based on those type of questions and comments, Brian's recommendation, and I would agree as well, is to ask for consideration to defer this to the next meeting, which would allow Brian to organize a meeting of the staff, discuss, work through these issues, and provide some feedback to the council.
Okay, well, yes, Kathy, so.
Larry, it was my understanding only the council needed to be in person because of the charter ordinances, but all the other committees could meet as they wanted to. If they could have a hybrid meeting without the change.
I'm not so sure that's true. They're governmental bodies, and all governmental bodies are subject to the same rules. The only difference is that the Common Council has a different quorum requirement from the other committees. The other committees are simple majority. So, in my view, if this is adopted, we're simply going back to the way things were before March 17, 2020, with committee meetings. Obviously, people can participate remotely as Luke is tonight. There's nothing wrong with that. But there are quorum requirements, and, that I'm sure it's been very convenient not to have to meet them for the last 2 years, but this is simply returning to the way things were from time immemorial until the beginning of the COVID emergency.
I thought that when we had talked about it before, that there was that it was only the council that actually needed to. So, okay, if that's the way it is now, so, okay.
So, Elder,
Is the request just to defer until the January 6th meeting? Is that?
Yeah, to defer it to at least till the next meeting on December 6th, that would allow, first of all, consideration of meetings that are already scheduled, because there are meetings that have been scheduled and noticed, and if this is adopted tonight, that leaves the question open of if those meetings are now not able to happen without a physical quorum. But also time to work through those questions and comments and potential special circumstances, and then provide that information to the council. Because there has not been discussion among staff about this resolution. I think it was a surprise to some staff that staffed those committees when they saw this on the agenda tonight.
So, Larry, let's say if we were to vote on this, which we are not going to now, we will go ahead and defer it. So whenever we pass the resolution, when would that become effective? Could we actually put a date in there?
You could, sure. If you want to have a specific date on which the resolution took effect, that could be done.
Okay.
That would make sense, because then you
Yeah.
could make sure that there were
Yes.
no meetings that were already previously scheduled, so
Sure.
that would make the most sense.
Okay, so right now it's probably a good idea to defer it, and then we think that through then?
That's my recommendation. That would allow time to have a staff meeting, discuss it with staff,
Okay.
provide that feedback, and also have the city administrator present for the
So
discussion.
do I have a motion to, if others agree,
Oh, question. Two questions, actually.
go ahead.
Now, do you know where Drew is, if that equipment is available or not? And do we want to also put on there discussing the charter ordinance for these other committees of how we want to do that? So,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
and
Kathy, can
if
you
we
say that
wanted
again?
to not go on the future agenda, whether we want to discuss the charter ordinance, whether all the committees have to meet, like it could be hybrid meetings or not.
On the first item with the hybrid technology, Drew did inform us that there are multiple pieces of this that they're waiting for, and I can't explain what all of them are, but it was down to there was just one piece additional that we're waiting for, and Brian did give him the authorization to go ahead and order that at an additional cost. It was a smaller amount than he was reporting before, because it was just the one component. So we are hopeful that we will get that earlier than January, which was the estimate on the original system. I don't have a specific date, but he has the authorization, put the order in, and hopefully we'll have that information for you at the next meeting. As to the second question, I think that it would be helpful to get direction from the council, because when we discussed the charter ordinance concept before, I don't recall that there was action one way or the other, so I think it would be helpful to revisit that, get direction from the council.
Okay, so, Middleton is among the cities in Dane County, Middleton is the only one, from what I have gotten from the other mayors, which are still, not meeting in person. And in Middleton, we have 9 of the committees are already meeting in person, 9 of the 27, 9 or 26 or 27, so. Okay, any other questions or?
Madison, it's my understanding that their council meetings can be as a hybrid now, and they don't have to be.
I did not, I guess I didn't ask Madison, but I asked other cities, so, yes. I didn't know. What do you know, Larry, about Madison?
I don't, but the reason for this is we're being extremely cautious.
Oh, right.
So if let's just say the emergency ends and we don't have any action that says on the basis of the emergency anymore, or on the basis of the charter ordinance, people can be anywhere in the world and be attending a meeting. There's language in the statute certainly that suggests, doesn't say explicitly, that a physical quorum is a requirement for meeting. And so the caution I have here is, let's say that the council approved something controversial. That, of course, rarely happens. And, and someone who was disappointed in the action sued the city because the meeting was not held with a physical quorum. A, we don't want that to happen, but B, it's a risk that we would have this controversial subject come back to to haunt us in ways we can't anticipate. So this is a way, I hope, of avoiding problems in the future by making sure that no one can say that this is an issue. Other municipalities may do things differently, and they may feel there's no problem. This city attorney thinks it is a risk. It is not absolutely positively illegal, but there's a risk that it is, and that's enough for me to say, let's make sure that never happens.
Is that risk for committees too, Larry, or are you speaking
Well, committees
solely
are
of the?
less likely to be making final actions. But again, they are governmental bodies subject to the open meetings law. And so it is certainly appropriate that they be subject to the same rules. And again, we never did it before 2020, so it's not like we don't know how to do it.
Well, I'm of the opinion that, the emergency is over. I mean, it's been over for a long time, and we've got to move on. I guess I would be okay with deferring to December 6th, but then we need to make a decision on this and move on this sooner rather than later. It's starting to get a little bit, I mean, everybody's going back to work, none of us are wearing masks. It's, the whole reason for it was this emergency, and there's no emergency anymore. I mean, we gotta be honest there. There's no emergency anymore. What we're down to now is we're down to whether or not we want to allow some of our committees change the way we run our meetings and let some of our committees go virtual, and whether or not we have the technology so that staff can be virtual. I think that's really the question and the hesitation here. But, so I would agree to a deferral to December 1st, but I really think that a decision needs to be made, and moving forward, we need to rescind this state of emergency.
Emily?
Do you have a date in mind? Because I kind of like, the first week of January.
I would say January 1st.
So that means that when this, if we move this, actually vote on this, then that this will be applicable on January 1st, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I understand. It's just
Katie,
a
go ahead,
small
please.
Yeah,
amendment.
but we're not voting on the date tonight.
No.
We're voting on my motion, which is to defer this item till the next meeting. And at that point, we can talk about a date. I think that we have to keep in mind Drew's equipment challenge, and perhaps it has to be February 1st. But we can talk about that when that's time.
Well, our conference room B is already set up, so for hybrid technology, it doesn't have a problem, so.
This is Hanira. I'll second the motion.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor of the motion to defer to the next meeting, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. All right, we are on to the, thank you, Larry. That's,
Before we talk about the next one,
okay,
I would suggest that both resolutions 5 and ordinances 4 be placed in the agenda after ordinance's second reading, because until the annexation is approved, there's nothing to act on.
oh, okay, so there's nothing to, okay, all right, makes sense. So we can't act on 5 unless we have this, where is that item? Oh, number 1 under ordinance is
Second reading, right.
Okay. We are on to the ordinances. This is the second reading. And this is the ordinance to annex by unanimous consent for the acre farm development between High Road and Pheasant Branch Road. Need a second, this is second reading, need a motion.
Ramsey will move approval.
Need a second.
Nelson will second.
Any questions or comments? It is going to be a very nice development. I think we haven't had it for a while. Okay, all those in favor of approving the ordinance to annex by unanimous consent the Acre Farm development between High Road and Pheasant Branch Road, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. What else you need? That's it, Larry, right?
Right, and then you
Then we
can go
go to
back to
number 5.
resolutions 5 and.
Okay, another so. Okay, we are on to resolutions number 5. This is 2022-66. Resolution adding wards due to annexation.
But we
Need a-
still haven't done the annexation.
I just did.
Oh. Sorry, I was doing the sewer rates.
Okay, need a motion to approve the resolution 2022-66, which adds one of the wards to your district.
So I will make the motion to approve resolution 2022-66.
Now, there are no people there yet, so okay, need a second.
Well, I had a question about that.
Need a second first, so.
This is Katie, I'll second.
Okay, second by, okay, go ahead.
I just thought, I saw that the population was 0, but I noted that in the petition for the annexation, it was a population of 1.
That's an error, it's 1.
Yeah, there's 1 elect, okay.
I missed that.
But he wasn't registered. I went and looked. I'm like, oh,
Okay.
there's registered voter.
Okay, well, that's 0
Every
right now,
voter
so.
counts.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion approving the resolution 2022-66, adding wards due to annexation, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Well, you got to go and talk to those guys to
Make
register.
sure he registers, yes.
Yes, okay. We are on to the ordinances. This is the first reading. Final action may be taken upon approval of the motion to suspend the rules under section 1.07. Item number 1, ordinance to amend section 9.05 bracket 10 relating to the sanitary sewer rates. Need a motion to approve.
Ramsey moves to suspend the rules and move for approval.
Wilkes, I'll second.
Okay, second by Elder Wilkes. Any questions or comments? Actually, I'm pleased, as I said before, that the rates are not going up by 12% as Madison Metropolitan Sewer District was saying. So whatever our staff did, it's a good thing. So they're going up by just 4.4 or 4.5%. So, okay, any questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion to approve the ordinance to amend section 9.0510 relating to the sanitary sewer district, sanitary sewer rates, and we already spent section 1.07, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So this was the final. We are on to item number 2, the ordinance to amend section 2715 bracket 1 and 2715 bracket 4 relating to holidays.
This is Alder Kuhn. I'll make a motion to suspend the rules and do a final reading and approve.
Okay, we are adding another holiday.
Adding Martin Luther King Jr.
Okay.
Day.
Okay.
An additional personal day.
An additional personal. I need a second.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, just as.
Yes, lady, your time now.
Because I didn't draft the ordinance.
Yes, yes.
So what the amendment is, and it should be underlined, is the addition of the Martin Luther King Day holiday. That's the only part of 2715 sub 1 that's being changed. Is that correct?
No, in addition to that, there is an increase in personal days.
From what to what?
From 32 hours, from 24 hours, 3 days, to 32 hours, 4 days. With the recommendation, continuing on there, would be underlined, would be with the recommendation that employees use one of their personal days to volunteer.
So that second sentence is all new.
Yes.
The employees are encouraged. That's all new language as well.
That's all new language.
So do you have to rewrite it, or do we vote
No,
on this
no.
one?
But, you know, I think when the codification takes place, they're not gonna know what's new and
It's
what's
not a red
changed
line.
either. So are there any, so what's new in 2715 sub 4? In the second part of the ordinance?
27 sub 4, personal holidays. Holidays is changed to days.
So it's going from 24 to 32 hours?
Yes. And wherever the word holiday attached to personal is, that is changed to days from holidays.
Oh.
Point of order, don't we have, isn't somewhere in the ordinance, doesn't it specify how changes to ordinance are supposed to appear? And does that part of the ordinance fall under the suspension of the rules to go straight to the second reading?
I guess that's Larry. I'm gonna let Larry handle that.
I'm not sure I understood. I'm still editing as I'm going along here, so.
Well,
Well,
what I'm asking is, so section 1.05 of the Middleton Municipal Code, Part 2, it says when drafts of proposed ordinances renumbering and amending, repealing, and recreating city ordinances are presented to the common council in writing, except complete revisions of major ordinances, the parts that are to be omitted shall be written in first and stricken through, and all new material underscored or highlighted.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Right, but what I'm asking is, when we suspend the rules to go straight to the second reading, can we also suspend the rule that they come to us in the proper format? Because I know the Finance Committee has returned a proposed ordinance change to the author and asked for it to come back in the proper format.
I don't know. So Larry, we shouldn't be voting on this one unless it's a.
Well,
So these, both of these drafts, this and the next one, were provided by Matt Fleming to me in ostensibly the format that he believed was acceptable for presentation to the council. They weren't drafted by staff. The changes were sent to Matt Fleming for drafting for presentation to the council exactly as they are.
So would there be a problem if we defer to the next meeting?
The markup version is in the personnel file or folder. Should we just, the one that's marked up? you
Well,
know,
that-
I can show the markup. I have it on
Well,
my
if it
screen.
was already prepared, that's great, because that's what should be
Here.
adopted by the council.
Yeah, so we
So
could bring that up. and
There was
then-
not a problem. It was provided in that format. Great. That's how it should have been in the council
personnel,
packet
but
as
this
well.
is what should have showed up here too. yeah.
Okay, so then the motion should be to approve this marked up version, right? Is that what you want the motion to be? Or?
Yes.
Well, I let you work on it and then,
Well, may I ask a question? Or actually, it's a correction. It's actually Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
You can amend it, certainly.
All right, I would like to make that amendment, if you're okay with that, Katie?
it looks like it's not in a final form to vote on this. Doesn't it look like, or are you okay with this? We certainly shouldn't
Well,
suspend the
the
rules.
way
so-
it's on your screens right now is what you should be seeing in the packet. If you're comfortable, because there's also a sentence deleted in 2715 sub 4B, which is one of these personal days is designated to be in honor of Martin Luther King Jr. If everybody is comfortable looking at this language on the screen and understand that it was drafted that way, I think you could act tonight if that's.
Could we have a first reading?
You could do it as a first
I
reading,
think
sure.
let's have it, yes. No.
But I'm just gonna read from the ordinance again. Section 1.07, suspension of the rules, does say that these rules or any part thereof may be temporarily suspended in connection with any matter under consideration by a recorded 2/3 vote of the members present. So that suspension of the rules, if we approve that by 2/3 vote, we don't need to have had the correct marked up version. So we could go ahead and vote on it and also.
Still have it.
But we could also vote on it, have a first reading rather than suspend the rules. and then we can make sure that, you know.
Well, but if we don't suspend the rules for the corrections, for the presentation in the correct format, if we don't suspend the rules for that and come back to it next time, that'll be the first reading, and I guess we could suspend the rules then. I'm fine with the
I think
substance.
Larry, would it be better just to defer it and bring it
This
back
is a
to-
policy matter for the common
Kathy?
council.
Brian, would you like to explain the timing of this and how deferring this affects the
Yeah,
implementation?
so this comes before the council, and I made an unqualified recommendation that we act on this simply as expeditiously as possible, simply because to implement this by the first of the calendar year, which would be the intent for the next calendar year, the processing and completion at the next council meeting of the salary plan and the necessary processing of this to update all of the salaries, update all of the plans and calculations within our HRIS, and to work with our HRIS provider really requires us to get this done as soon as possible so those things can be both implemented and validated before the beginning of the year. I would have brought these before the council significantly earlier, but it was very clear that the council had a desire to defer these types of issues until after the referendum was considered and passed or failed. And so, I apologize for pressing the council into a difficult position with a document that I believe that I received correctly and with limited time, but events have conspired against both myself and the council to have a lot more time.
So what if we pass by suspending the rules finally on December, first meeting in December, would that be a problem? Or would that work out okay?
Ideally, at the first meeting in December, we would pass the salary plan, and that would give me the balance of December to work on validating the salary plan and get that updated. And this would pass now, and both Lori and I could work with the HRS provider to get the changes necessary made to both employee records and the software formulas and coding and make sure that this is in place by the first of the year.
So Larry, what do you say?
Well, I think we have the same issue with the next item on the agenda. I don't know what's new and what is stricken and what's added. And, I'm not voting on it, of course, but, why we do strikeouts and underlines is to make sure that the council recognizes every change that's been made. So no one can say later, oh, there was something got snuck in and you didn't know what it was. We could just simply write an ordinance that says, it's the way it is here, but if you don't know what's been changed, you don't know what you're voting on.
I think
And so the point is, these two go together, and I don't know what changes there were in 27.14, but if it's the same issue, it would be easier to do them together.
Okay, first Kathy and then Emily.
Would it be appropriate to say we'd suspend the rules and adopt the new ordinance as presented in the personnel packet, or does it have to be in the council packet?
Well, I assume most people in the council have not seen the personnel packet, unfortunately.
Emily? I think, I don't think we should, well, it's up to you, but I would say we should defer it and vote on the first meeting.
Talking.
Pardon me? Okay.
I was talking.
Yeah, well, I didn't
Thank
listen
you.
to you. Sorry, go ahead.
So, what happened was we are trying to get Martin Luther King Jr. Day on the 2023 calendar. The city of Middleton has not honored it. We are constantly talking about trying to recruit personnel to come and work for our city. We are constantly talking about honoring the people that have gone before us. And I understand that the paperwork is not perfect. However, we have to get this in the system I guess I shouldn't say we have to, I would like it to get into the system. I would like to honor the people like Martin Luther King Jr. and what they've done in the past. And I put it forward to do to suspend the rules, and I'm gonna hold that.
Well, we all want to do it, but I don't think there's any question of that. Yeah, Elder
Just-
Nero?
Just for clarification, I believe we have a motion on the floor to suspend the rules, to approve, go straight to the second reading of this ordinance change, which we're all able to view. Bill, there's no more to this particular ordinance that's changing? Like, we can see on the screen?
Yes, you're seeing the entirety of the changes for this first ordinance item.
Yep, and under the 1.07 of our municipal code, suspending the rules is suspending all the rules related to ordinance changes, including the requirement that we see what we're seeing right now on the screen. So I'm comfortable with the motion that
Okay.
Alder Nelson has made and that I seconded, and
Did I make it?
I made it.
Oh,
Who
okay.
made it?
So,
All right.
so you're comfortable with it?
It's been a
Okay.
while.
If you're going to do that, why don't you formally amend the ordinance to add the junior to Martin Luther King?
I did.
Well, we did it informally. Why don't we make a record of it?
She did, and Nelson seconded it.
Okay.
It wasn't voted on, but,
Okay,
Oh,
all
I
those.
mean,
in-
normally you vote on amendments before you vote on the,
All right, I'll formally make the,
you made the motion.
okay.
You just need to vote on
Okay,
it.
all those in favor of the motion to amend from Martin Luther King to Martin Luther King Jr., say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. All right. Let's on to the second one.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that was an amendment to the motion. Now you need to act on the main motion.
Okay, yes, yeah, that's right. So any further discussion on the main motion now?
Is the main motion to suspend the rules or to suspend the rules and go for and
No,
approve?
I guess that's included.
Suspend the
No,
rules,
it's, you just say you suspend the rules and we vote on this, so. It is to ordinance to amend section 2715 sub 1 and 2715 sub 4 relating to holidays. That's the motion. Larry, is that how it is?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that's the motion. Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Aye. Okay, motion passes. We are on to item number 3, ordinance to amend section 2714 relating to the vacation accrual and scheduling.
I will make a motion to
Now, hold on.
Just,
Hold on, the request for the strikeout, so that the council can see the strikeouts and the changes, that was a part of the personnel packet, as was previous, so, to ensure the council has members that did not have a chance to see those changes already, they're available. For the council members that were not present at the Personnel Committee, what you're seeing is one of two recommendations. The first recommendation was one drawn from the Personnel Committee previously. There is a second recommendation. All it is the beginning and ending points of the changes are the same. It is just a different ramp from initial vacation to the end of vacation to provide a more consistent distribution of vacation days across the employee's life cycle. It takes 5 steps of vacation to do that, starting with shorter distance between the steps at the beginning and a longer distance between the steps at the end of their career, different from the 4 steps that were proposed by the Personnel Committee previously. So that is what you're seeing on the screen at this time. If you need me to scroll down further, I'm happy
Yeah,
to do that.
please do.
Do I have to make a motion to correct a typo?
Do what?
Correct a typo?
Is it manger? Because I caught that one.
Accordant? I see accordant.
If it changes the meaning, then it would have to be.
Well, I mean, it's not a word.
Okay.
But I
Where do
didn't
you-
know, like, Martin Luther King Jr. is the holiday.
Yeah.
That seemed to be a correction, but I had to make an amendment.
Well, I'm going to let Larry look at this first yet, if we kind of.
Keep scrolling, please. And Alder Haniro, where is the,
Well, I'm looking at the one that was uploaded to the, on base, or whatever it's called. But it looks
Our
like it's been
packet?
corrected in here.
Can I make the motion so we can have the conversation?
Could we just wait? Just if, I want you to Larry to look at it and he feels okay, so.
okay. And these are the last changes?
Yes. Those are the complete changes for the vacation scheduling and
Thank you.
accrual.
Okay, so how do you feel?
Well, as I said before, the circumstances are exactly the same as on the preceding ordinance.
Are we creating a precedent here now by voting on this?
Well, no, but, I would certainly hope that in the future we have proper information available so the
This
council
will
can
just
see
be
it.
a lesson moving forward to
So,
have a different format.
so delaying would have the same problem.
Well, these two ordinances have
Okay.
identical
Okay.
issues, that's all
Okay.
I'm saying.
Okay, so what do you want to do now? So what you see, you're okay if we were to vote on it?
As long as the council now understands what's being changed, sure.
So does everybody know what's being changed? So, Brian, why don't you go over it?
Okay, absolutely. So the recommended changes, and these are drawn from the Personnel Committee recommendations and feedback provided by department heads and employees through an employee survey, is to increase the initial allocation of vacation accrual to 15 days a year. The plan is then simplified from a pre-Act 10 plan that really favored seniority of employees to a much simpler ramp of 5 steps from the previous 11 steps of vacation from beginning to end. The maximum vacation at the end of the vacation accrual increases by 3 days also to 30 days from 27 days. Additionally, there is just some clarification that should have existed in the ordinance previously about proration of vacation for regular employees that are not full-time employees working 40 hours a week. That is the sum total of the changes in the vacation. And like I said, there are 2 proposed ordinances that I had received to put into the packet. They both have the same problems, that they're not marked up. The one that was and speaking for the Personnel Committee earlier, the one that they generally recommended was the one you're seeing before you now. That was the increased ramp that I provided to the committee this evening.
Okay, so need a motion to approve.
This is Alder Kuhn. I move to suspend the rules and do a final reading and approve ordinance to amend section 2714 relating to vacation accrual and scheduling per personnel.
Olson, I'll second that motion.
Okay, any questions or comments, either to Brian or Larry or?
Comment that
Yeah,
this-
go ahead, Kathy.
This is a very generous proposal, so it should help with the, at least recruitment. A few have 15 days starting out, but moving up to after 3 years is kind of unusual. So it should really help if that's what the employees are looking for. So.
Okay, Kendra, you have any other questions or comments from anyone? Okay, otherwise, all those in favor of the motion to approve the ordinance to amend section 27-14 relating to the vacation accrual and scheduling, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We are on to item number 4, ordinance to revise section 18.01 sub 2 sub F relating to the ward boundaries in the city of Middleton. Need to suspend the rules and motion to approve, yes.
I'll make the motion to suspend the rules and approve the ordinance to revise section 1801 2F.
Okay. Need a second.
This is Wilkus, I'll second.
Okay. Second by Alder Kendra Wilkos. Any questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion to approve the ordinance to revise section 18.01 sub 2F relating to the ward boundaries in the city of Middleton, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. We are on to the one more item, the last item here. This is under planning and zoning. This is the specific implementation plan for Keva Sports expansion 8210 Forsythia Street. Need a motion to approve.
Ramsey will move to approve.
Need a second.
Wilkus, I'll second.
Any questions or comments? Is there anybody from planning want to say anything? So all the requirements which Plan Commission had are here or are met, right? Or would be?
Part of the motion.
Okay, all right. Okay, any other questions or comments? Otherwise, all those in favor of approving the specific implementation plan for Keva Sports expansion at 8210 Forsythia Street, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay. All right, need a motion to adjourn.
This is Wilkus, I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Need a
This is
second?
Kuhn, I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.